Hello, I'm glad you've joined us for another installment of The Real Deal. I'm your host, Stephanie Bristow. We have a fantastic show lined up for you this week. Julia Ritchie is going to look at why comedy sequels never seem to live up to their originals. Kaylee Russell will give you 2 up-and-coming bands to watch out for. Molly Raker has her episode of the week, and much more. Now that you've heard what you're in for this week, let's kick things off with Ryan Sexton and Hollywood Headlines. Ryan?
Last week, I reported that 2 up-and-coming starlets were up for the coveted lead role for the Carrie remake. I can officially report that 15-year-old Chloe Grace Moretz has signed to star. Whether an audience will believe a 15-year-old as a high school senior going to her prom is still up in the air, but Moretz may just have the chops to pull it off. Ashton Kutcher is set to play legendary Steve Jobs in a biopic about his early life. While Kutcher does have an uncanny resemblance to a young Jobs, he has not played a memorable serious role since 2004's The Butterfly Effect, and even that is debatable. Kutcher will film during 2.5 Men's hiatus this summer. A sequel that nobody asked for is currently in development. The 1988 hit comedy Twins is getting a sequel. It will be called Triplets and will follow original cast members Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito as unlikely twin brothers who discover there is a third, who will be played by Eddie Murphy. More sequel news comes from the mouth of Will Ferrell, who announced last week that production on Anchorman 2 is well underway. No other details have been confirmed, but the original cast is expected to return. And finally, the Razzie Awards took place on April Fool's Day last weekend, and Adam Sandler was a big winner, well, big loser. Sandler's film Jack and Jill took home all 10 awards handed out at the ceremony. Sandler won not only Worst Actor, but Worst Actress too. That's it for Hollywood Headlines. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Ryan. Now, I did much better on my Razzie predictions than my Oscar predictions this year, but I guess that's not saying much. Next, we have the return of Denny Sullivan, and I hear he is fed up with a certain genre of television. Here's Denny in this week's edition of The Rant.
On March 31st, 2000, the United States was introduced to a little show called Survivor. Instantly, the maroon castaways in Borneo were overnight sensations. The show became a phenomenon, partly because it was nothing like anything anyone had seen on TV before. Its success led to a number of similar shows, and thus the reality TV craze came into existence. Just like a new relationship, it was new, exciting, and kept you coming back for more. But just like a relationship you rushed into too quickly, the red flags were ignored, and the effects of reality TV has reared their ugly, drunken, tiara-wearing, teen-momming head. In America, just like that relationship I keep talking about, it's time to end things with reality TV. It's time we make it that crazy ex you can't believe you dated. And the first show we need to drop is Toddlers and Tiaras. In case you haven't seen it, this is the show about the creepiness of child pageants and the craziness of the parents involved. I don't care how these people choose to live their lives. I don't care that they filmed it and put it on TV. What I do care about is that a lot of people love this show, and they love other horrible shows like it. Don't believe me? Look at all the orange people walking around since Jersey Shore gained popularity. And you've got to be kidding me if you can't see the correlation between little girls glamorizing pregnancy and the show 16 and Pregnant premiering. It's bad enough that show produced an awful ABC family drama, but now girls are trying to get pregnant because they want to be famous that bad. Did you hear that? Now, I'm not saying it's the fault of these shows, but it's the fault of these shows, and research backs me up on that. Professor Stephen Rice and Dr. James Wiltz, 2004, found that viewers of reality TV had higher levels of self-importance, vindication, and lacked morals. These shows are literally molding people into horrible human beings. And that's my problem with these shows. They're a poison to our society, so toxic that it killed a music channel's ability to play music. Now, I'll be the first to admit that there are some exceptions, like The Amazing Race or Iron Chef, but the overwhelming majority is rubbish. And compared to scripted programming, they're so much cheaper to produce. So unless we do something, it looks like they're here to stay and get crazier. And if you were in a relationship with someone getting crazier and crazier, you'd cut that tie, right? If not, I think I know a couple shows you might want to try out for. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Denny. Now, moving on to another craze that has swept the country, The Hunger Games. Its opening dominated the box office, but how did it hold up against the premieres of Wrath of the Titans and Mirror Mirror over the weekend? Well, let's take a look in this week's box office report.
It all started a long time ago when I accidentally summoned a mystical creature as old as time itself, the Lorax.
Hey! Did you chop down this tree?
What's that?
Hey! I think he did it.
Down on Jump Street, 21 Jump Street. You are here because you some Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus looking mothers. You will be going in as undercover high school students.
The end of the world.
There's a way we can end this.
What are you waiting for?
You're stronger than they are.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out. No! Take care of them, Gail. Whatever you do, don't let them starve.
Hit the 17, the girl on fire!
What did you say to your sister when you volunteered at the reaping?
I told her that I would try to win for her.
And try you will.
Sequels have been the talk of Hollywood this past week. Earlier in the show, Ryan covered the announcements of Triplets and Anchorman 2, but the Farrelly brothers also recently confirmed plans for a Dumber and Dumber sequel. What do all these films have in common? They're comedies. Julia Ritchie wants to tell you why that might be an ominous sign for these sequels. Julia?
Every once in a while, a movie comes along that's so good it naturally deserves a sequel. Some of the greatest movies ever made were sequels, like The Empire Strikes Back and The Godfather Part 2. Even then, some sequels are considered to be the worst movies ever made, which seems to be the case with comedies. In many instances, comedy sequels never seem to live up to the original, since they usually end up replicating jokes and plot lines. The recent announcement and confirmation of Anchorman 2 makes me a little wary about this curse, and it makes me wonder whether it will live up to the original film. Although filmmakers of comedy sequels want to keep the audience satisfied, they end up making the mistake of rehashing jokes and sometimes the plot from the first movie. Take The Hangover Part 2, for example. Despite earning $137.4 million at the box office its first 5 days in theaters, many people thought the sequel was too much like the original, with the only differences being that it's set in Bangkok instead of Vegas, and there's a monkey instead of a baby. Likewise, in other movies like Caddyshack 2, the filmmakers seem like they're trying too hard to live up to the original, making everything too predictable and just unfunny. To these filmmakers, it doesn't matter if the story is good. They just seem too busy reveling in the success of the first film to notice. On the other hand, drama and action sequels are usually better films since there are a lot more options when it comes to plot lines. You can kill off a main character, introduce a new villain, or anything that makes the movie more exciting. In that respect, The Dark Knight is arguably one of the best sequels out there. It's a good, uncomplicated plot with surprising twists, better action sequences, and Heath Ledger's awesome performance as the Joker. Drama sequels like this tend to work better because the stories have more substance compared to the replicated jokes and gags found in almost every comedy. Of course, there are exceptions, but non-comedy sequels are usually better films. To me, every time I watch a comedy sequel, it feels like I'm with a group of people who continuously reference inside jokes that just aren't even funny. This curse that plagues comedy sequels should be a hint to filmmakers that they should leave these successful comedies alone and not ruin them by making subpar sequels. It's hard to understand why Hollywood keeps doing this and if they'll ever learn. Hopefully Anchorman 2 will break this curse when it's released in a couple of years. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Julia. And don't forget, this year we will see the releases of American Reunion, Men in Black 3, and the 4th installment of the Ice Age series. I don't think I would bet on any of those topping their originals. Next, we're going to shift to the music industry with a segment from Kaylee Russell. She's noticed some bands that may have a bright future ahead of them. Kaylee?
If you go to iTunes, you will see quite a few artists that were not on the top charts a few months ago. It's refreshing to hear new songs on the radio instead of the same old songs that are always played. Two artists that I believe are quickly gaining notoriety in the US are Fun and One Direction. Fun is an indie rock band from New York City that formed in 2008. They have 2 albums, Aim and Ignite, which was made in 2009, and Some Nights, which was released this past February. This 3-member band is best known for its single, We Are Young, which features Janelle Monáe. The song has reached #1 on the Billboard Top 100 for 14 straight weeks. It has also been charted on digital songs for 13 weeks. This single has launched Fun's career, making them one of the hottest bands to watch out for. But I can't help wondering if this band might be a one-hit wonder. After all, none of their other songs from their 2 albums are on the Billboard charts. The song All of the Pretty Girls is from their debut album, and it definitely has an exciting Queen vibe. In fact, all of their songs I listened to had this feel. Even though this band isn't the mainstream pop that the charts love, I'm willing to bet Some Nights will be this summer's hottest album. The next breakout band is One Direction. This British-Irish boy band placed 3rd in the hit British reality competition, The X Factor. This band has definitely brought back the boy band vibe from the 90s. These 5 boys have great harmonies, so it's no wonder that they went so far in the competition. Their debut album, Up All Night, was released this past November, and it was number 2 on the UK album charts. Their catchy single, What Makes You Beautiful, reached number 1 on the UK single charts. Currently on the Billboard Top 100, the single has peaked at number 11, and it's also number 3 on iTunes. This band was formed less than a year ago, and they have already reached fame. They are on the fast track to being huge hits. Because cute boys who sing pop, hint Justin Bieber and the Jonas Brothers, are popular with preteen girls, One Direction was destined to be successful from the start. And I'm interested to see if their fame will last years from now. These 2 bands are just a few of the newcomer artists that are dominating the airwaves. Personally, I couldn't be happier to hear new voices on the radio. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks for the suggestions, Kaylee. Maybe it's time I get over my 90s kick and trade my Backstreet Boys and NSYNC albums for different bands. While I consider this, let's take a break. Stick around. Great to have you with us again. Molly Rager works tremendously hard each week deciding which show will earn the crown of Episode of the Week. I'm sure this week was no different. Take it away, Molly.
Thanks, Stephanie. Now you know what that sound means. Mad Men has finally returned to my television with new episodes. So in this premiere, everyone probably knows about this one musical number, Zooby Zooby Zoo, which Megan sang for Don at his birthday. And now that I say that, all I can think of is a song, and it's stuck in my head. So, to be fair, here's the clip so it can be stuck in your head.
Zooby Zooby Zoo. Zooby Zooby Zoo, Zooby Zoo, Zooby Zoo, le bruit des bisous.
Why don't you sing like that?
Why don't you look like him?
Now, a lot happened in this episode, so I'm going to try to get through it all, but I highly doubt I'm going to do that. But I'm going to first start off with Sterling and Pete, and those 2 are like my favorite characters together. Their dynamic is hilarious. I love how Sterling was trying to butt in with Pete and trying to take over all of his accounts and make him irrelevant, and Pete was just not having it. After he got beat up by his office and his pole, he decided that he wanted a new office. So he brought it up to Sterling, and Sterling had to cave in and give him an office. Now, Pete has a huge change. He has a baby, and he lives in the suburbs, which he's not liking because he has to go on a train back and forth. This proves that he's even closer to how Don was in season 1. Now on to Don. Don actually did marry Megan, and I just don't know how long this relationship's gonna last because Megan is so youthful and Don is so just low-key, wants to stay in his room away from anyone. So, I mean, who knows how it's gonna turn out. They already had a big fight about Don's surprise party and how he felt embarrassed by Megan's song and dance. But in the end, I mean, they were in a fight and Megan was like, maybe we shouldn't work together, which I really think they shouldn't, but hey, then it wouldn't be good television. But in the end, they didn't really talk about it, if you know what I mean. We shall see if their relationship lasts. Now, I've talked a lot about the other stuff, so real quickly, Joan and her baby are so cute, but Joan needs to be at the office. That is where she belongs. She is not a mom or at least a stay-at-home mom. Lane needs to stop being so creepy. Lane, you have a wife, you don't need to be looking at a picture. Also, no Betty. I mean, who could be happier with no Betty? Especially no January Jones, because she can't act. Also, Mad Men tackled the civil rights movement very well. They didn't make it like a huge thing, but yet it still was, love that about the show, that they take all the historical trademarks that happen in the time period. Now, I believe that is it about Mad Men, so I'm going to go on to my honorable mention. Now, my honorable mention has something in common with Mad Men, and that is Alison Brie. Yes, she stars in my honorable mention show, Community. And I just found an interview of her, and I just wanted to share what she said in it.
I'm trying to be on as many shows as possible.
Let me tell you, Alison Brie knows how to pick her television shows. Mad Men, best drama. Community, hands down, best comedy, and this episode was no exception. Subway has moved into Greendale, and seriously, how many product placements of Subway can there be? There was Community Now, Cougar Town, Chuck, holy crap, they all start with C's, freaking me out. Anyway, another part of the episode that was huge was Troy and Abed's big fight. Abed wanted to make a pillow for it, Troy wanted to be in the Guinness World Records with a blanket for it, and there was a huge fight. Well, almost a huge fight. But what will win? Pillows or blankets? I wonder if we're ever going to find out who Kim is.
Who's Kim?
Alright guys, that's all I have for you. Keep watching TV. Back to you, Stephanie.
Good stuff, Molly. We're going to take one final break before the home stretch. When we return, we'll have a very interesting recommendation in this week's Best of Bracken. You won't want to miss it. See you soon. Hello again and welcome back to The Real Deal. Best of Bracken has always been here to give you recommendations on great movies you can find at Bracken Library. Now the lower level isn't only home to movies, computers, and children's books. Ashley Lohman has something else in mind for you to pick next time you're in Bracken. Ashley?
Usually for this segment, we review a movie that's available in Bracken Library, but I decided to do something a little different this time. Being the music fanatic that I am, I decided to review an album instead. As I was browsing the music collection in Bracken, I got pretty excited when I found an album from one of my favorite bands. They reign from Albuquerque, New Mexico, have been around since 1996, and actually just released a new album this year. I'm talking about the awesome indie group known as the Shins. If you've never heard of them, don't worry. I didn't know who they were for the longest time, until I watched the film Garden State. Its soundtrack included 2 songs from the group, and Natalie Portman's character tells Zach Braff's character that he has to listen to the song New Slang because it would change his life. I don't know about all that, but I do know that the Shins make some pretty awesome music. Although their latest album, Port of Morrow, isn't available, Bracken actually has 2 of their other albums, Shoots Too Narrow, which was released in 2003, and Wincing the Night Away, released in 2007. I'll just talk about Wincing the Night Away since it was released slightly more recently. When this album was released on January 23, 2007, it debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 with 118,000 copies sold within the first week. It eventually went gold, meaning that it sold more than 5,000 copies. It has been said to be the group's most musically diverse and experimental album yet, due to the mixture of psychedelic instrumentals and Hawaiian folk in the vocals, along with new wave and post-punk elements. The lead singer, James Mercer, stated that he hoped to address more of the human condition with this album, meaning he wanted to focus on the aspects of real-life issues, which would make the entire album very easy to relate to. I definitely think this goal was met, especially with the first song, titled Sleeping Lessons, which is loosely about insomnia. Other than the meaningful and easy to relate to lyrics, in my opinion, the accompanying instrumentals and backup vocals in every song on the album are all beautifully arranged. So even if you aren't a deep lyrics person, you'll appreciate the instrumentals and vice versa. Mercer, who is largely in charge of writing the music and lyrics, also says a lot of his musical inspiration comes from older groups, including The Smiths, The Cure, and even the Beach Boys. So if you're into any of those groups, or if you like the old school sound, then I think you'll enjoy this album. Also, if you like groups like Modest Mouse, Death Cab for Cutie, The Postal Service, or Arcade Fire, you just might give the Shins a try. You never know, they could change your life.
Thanks, Ashley. We have had a great show this week, but it's time for me to wrap things up with my final word. Now, this week's final word is going to cover the things in entertainment that are getting on my nerves. I'm going to look at 3 popular crazes that need to hightail it out of Hollywood. The Hunger Games. Now, let's be real. We know that the Hunger Games isn't leaving anytime soon. Last week, we spent most of the show fixated on a new phenomenon. With the 3rd largest opening of all time, the cast and crew is clearly doing something right. But I really wish people would lay off of it for a while. The book is excellent, and many believe the movie is true to form. But it's not the best thing ever. The Hunger Games is nothing compared to the detail and direction found in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. The more people gush about the Hunger Games, the less enthralled I am to listen. The incessant chatter about the film sort of takes away from the magic of Suzanne Collins' books. Next up, Jersey Shore. We already heard Denny's rant on reality TV, but I'm going to add my 2 cents. Now, I'll admit, I've seen a few episodes myself, but I just don't understand how this show is still around. There's absolutely no magic or mystery found at the shore, and all of our favorite Guidos have very little entertainment value. You have to question society when the entire cast has now reached celebrity status through their crazy antics. Snooki received so much attention when found out that she was pregnant, and I recently saw her in the preview for the Three Stooges movie. If the Jersey Shore crew can become famous, then everyone else needs to keep chasing their dreams. And finally, the Kardashians. I know, I like keeping up with them too. But what's the point? They all just have a lot of money, and we're just fascinated with how they spend it. People idolized Kim Kardashian and Kris Humphrey's wedding and divorce as much, if not more than, the royal wedding. The Kardashian women are still stealing the spotlight for unknown reasons. And that does it for The Real Deal this week. Have a great rest of your week. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on all things entertainment. We'll be back next week with more on the entertainment industry. I'm Stephanie Bristow. Have a great night.
What's up, class of 99ers?
We're gonna party together?
Hell yeah.
Just like old times. Let's make this reunion our bitch.
Cheers.
You're a lucky man, Oz.
Hey, guys, do you need a stare?
Yes. Yes, we do need to stare.